And good evening. It is Sunday, July 26th. So glad you were here. The big question is, what does it take to be a true winner in the game of life and in business? That's the topic tonight on the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. And let's welcome him here to the show. And you talk about two winners. We're talking about winning tonight. Here's two of the biggest winners I know. Here's Ken and Glenn. Oh, you guys, you swept me. Wait. Oh. And a guy named Scott. Underdressed guy. You guys.
Well, you know, we're talking about dressing for success tonight. And,
Scott. Oh, that was funny.
You guys.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We thought you would.
Not worthy. I'm not worthy. That's
fun,
too
man.
good.
Oh,
that's too good.
So, hey, you know, we were
I got to get a screenshot of Ken in a tie. There we go. I got it. All right.
I said I was
what happened, Ken?
My red power tie, but oh man, you know, Glenn and I were talking. We were talking about the what it takes to win, and ironically, we had both watched the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls show, the Last Dance. And dude, I said to Glenn, I said, you know, one thing about Michael Jordan that I noticed in every single scene after a game, no matter where you saw him, the dude was dressed to the nines. I mean,
impeccably.
It was unreal. He was always ready for success, man.
And so that's the extent of our show, is just to tell you to dress with a tie, and you don't have to do anything else.
That's right. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for stopping in, Scott.
Thanks for stopping by.
Scott's like, I really kind of do want to take us out.
Success? Not. Example, warning.
Well, I've had about enough of mine, so I'm going to go ahead and lose it.
I got too much. I got a green screen behind me. I'll go off camera. You guys chat for a minute.
Okay. Here, you.
That was great, Glenn. Holy cow.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, man, it was cool.
And I thought that's the thing, because if he sees us in it in the pre-show,
I'll try to run through it.
Then he'll know what the deal is. I said, we got to find a way to get ourselves dressed during the away time.
Gosh, that was so good. That was so good.
Okay. I even had a shirt under it.
The tie is on 24.
Right. Right. Well, no, Marshall Winthrop wears a tie all the time as a billionaire on The Resident.
Yeah.
But well, I'm glad you laughed.
I love it.
I love it. So how's everybody tonight? How's
got a lot of folks
feeling?
checking in here. Yeah. Ken is the only guy that can put your comments up on the screen, and he's doing his I started to say he's doing his Gypsy Rose lead.
My wardrobe change.
I don't think anybody would know who that was. So
did you really take a screenshot?
Yeah, I took a screenshot of you with a tie. Like I said, I've seen Glenn on television with a tie on. I don't think in my whole life, I've known you for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen you with a tie on, man.
Oh,
Very dapper.
I put
Very,
one on about
very
once
good.
a year. Once a year. I'll tell you right now, though, I think I need a shower. I'm like sweating. And I'll tell you why, Scott. Just so you know, I practiced that, timed it on StreamYard. I practiced
This
it
is what we were doing in the pre-show, was
multiple
practicing
times,
dressing
dude.
ourselves.
Oh man, that's a great open. What's your T-shirt say, by the way, Ken? I saw the blue conflict. Conquer your conflicts.
That's my buddy Brad Modrich. He has a company called Conquer Your Conflicts. It's really good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Karen. Hello, Sandy. Hello, Greg and Scott and Cindy and Ernest. The usual suspects are with us tonight. Larry, Robert Brooker, Sandy, Larry again, Perry. Hello, Perry. Yeah, we got them all. Jeff, glad you're here with us this evening.
Hey, everybody do me and Scott and Glenn a huge favor and share this out. Sharing is caring. Anyway, that'd be great if you shared it out. We thank you for that. So, you know, that's the whole, I don't know, drop a 1 in the comments. Glenn loves it when I say that. Hey, Doug Wing. Hey, you guys, listen, this guy right here, Doug Wing, have you ever heard of the Little Giant Ladders? Have you seen the Little Giant Ladders?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. His father is the inventor and founder of that company. Doug is the co-chairman of the board or the company or what. I don't. He's going to be on my show. He's a friend of mine now. Amazing guy.
Hey,
yeah.
Can you take me out for about 15 seconds while I readjust my camera?
Yes.
Yeah, just take me out. I'll reposition my camera. And I'll be ready in a second.
Okay. Hey, Scott.
I wonder what he's setting us up for, huh?
I know.
I'm not real trusting after that opening, guys. I got to tell you that. Hey, but, hey Ken, I got to make sure I mention, I saw that our friend Charles Coachman was on, and Charles told me this week how much he is getting out of your course, your
that's
Grow Live course. And I just wanted to mention that because that was unsolicited. And one of the things he was telling me about was how much he's getting from the course. So
that's so awesome, man.
I want to make sure to mention that because,
you know, and I met Charles because of you and Charles on my birthday. Glenn, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Okay, Scott, hang on. So on my birthday,
thank you, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. On my birthday, Charles, because you know he's got an issue going on with his voice.
Yeah.
And on my birthday, he wrote out this really nice thing on multiple pieces of look like cardboard, white card, or I don't know, and recorded a video saying, "I hope you have a very happy birthday." All these
I saw it.
things.
It was great. Yeah, it was like
did
the
you see
Dylan.
it?
Well, it was like the old Dylan music video. Remember that? How Dylan had and didn't sing. It was just him, but he would do the way. That's what it reminded me of. It was really, really terrific.
It was awesome. Yeah, he's such a good dude.
He is. He's a great guy.
So, and he just tagged us in a post. I just saw it. So, listen, what we're talking about winning tonight, and I honestly, since I finished watching that, and I'm indifferent. Scott, I know you hate the Bulls, and I get that totally. It's like me with
this isn't even about the Bulls. It's about winning.
Not.
Yeah.
No, but like I don't care if you hate them or not. Like, you cannot deny the fact that they freaking dominate. I mean, Michael Jordan is, I mean, I don't even know how to put it in words. He's the GOAT.
Yep.
I mean, by far. And you think of Larry Bird and all these amazing other people. And you know, there's parts in that documentary where he's like, oh my God, I'm going to play for the first time. I'm playing against Larry Bird. And like, can you imagine like you're facing Larry Bird? I can't imagine. Like it's incredible.
I had the privilege of seeing him many times. And you know, when I say I hate the Bulls, it's because they defeated my Pacers. You know, the Pacers would have been NBA champions, I think, several times, except they always ran into the Bulls. And you know, so that was it. But you can't deny Jordan's just absolute supremacy
Oh,
at what he did. And to think it's a guy that was cut from his high school basketball team.
sophomore year.
Just
Yeah.
amazing. Just amazing.
So I think it that man, he talks about the work that he put in. And, I saw a video on Facebook the other day, this little boy, and it was a really rundown court he was in or playing on, and it was raining and lightning outside. And this little, probably 10 or 12-year-old kid is just standing there shooting free throws in this lightning and rain. And like, how it comes down to that. I think it comes down to, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it?
Attention, this disclaimer just now in. Kids worldwide who could be watching the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott, please do not try to locate your nearest electrical storm in order to practice your basketball prowess. We, the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott, do not recommend this, and we will not be responsible for any unfortunate incidents that occur should you desire to disregard this message. Thank you.
And kids shouldn't be watching this anyway, because Glenn gets out of control sometimes.
That's pretty funny and also true.
Well, Doug Wings out in Utah, the little giant ladder guy I was just talking about, and he's right. The Bulls stopped the Jazz 2 times.
Yeah. Karl Malone ran into some issues, and John Stockton. I was a big John Stockton and Malone fan. Yeah. And they ran headlong into the Bulls and so forth. But, it isn't just the players. And I really, really want to hear, we want to hear you guys' thoughts about this. But let's not overlook the fact that Phil Jackson had 6 championships. It was a double three-peat, right? So not 6 in a row, but 3 in a row, a skip, and then 3 in a row, which is really bordering inhuman. So now get this. He goes to the Los Angeles Lakers, where that team wins 5 more championships, giving Phil Jackson a total of 11 championships. Wow. And you simply can't argue that consciousness is everything. So you can have all the physical readiness, but the game is played in your head before it's played on the court. And that is a core teaching of life in general. This goes so far beyond being a discussion of basketball. It is just a real truth that the consciousness of expectation, so long as we are willing to do what is required and beyond. So literally, if we're willing to go the extra mile, both in consciousness and on the ball court of life, then we have every reason in the world. It is reasonable to expect victory. Reasonable. But we're not going to hope it into existence, wish it into existence, or want it into existence, but we're going to do the work it takes, and it is formulaic. And Michael Jordan was someone that truly embodied formulaic living relative to the outcome his heart desired. When he went in with Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Bulls were a nothing team. And he came in vowing a championship for them, or at least I'm here to do my part. And what happened is he elevated the bar for the entire team, for the entire organization. So anyone who did not have that pre-existing take on expectation, or what I call room for consciousness, the consciousness of inevitability, if they didn't see that as an inevitable outcome, Michael Jordan's spirit infected them in a favorable way. And soon after crossing paths with him, the whole organization changed. That's how powerful the human mind is. Your thoughts?
I just want to add, I noticed the comment about the Utah Jazz, and a friend of mine was on that team. A good friend named Mark Eaton was the center on those teams, and Mark is now a speaker and just one of the great guys in the world. So Mark and I were talking one night, and I said, well, you played against Jordan, the heartbreaking losses, that kind of thing. And he said, it's easy for people to forget, because Jordan looks so good, that he was playing against the best players in the world.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he could make us all look like high school players sometimes. And he said it is hard for the average person to understand the true essence of his greatness simply because they are unfamiliar with the competition.
Yeah, he wasn't playing against the Cub Scouts.
Yeah. And that thought had never crossed my mind before until Mark said that, it's not just that he was the best, he was producing that consistently against the greatest players in the world. He said, for everybody that gets in the NBA, there is at some point in their life that they are the best player that they've ever played with. So in other words, you were the best player on your high school team. If you're in the NBA, you were probably the best player on your college team. You might even have been the best player in your conference in college. And to have this guy come along and make you look like you're, a JV player in high school, he said that's what most people don't understand about his greatness, was the incredible level it was to be that good against that level of competition. And that had never crossed my mind before. And when you're talking about the, oh man, I got a picture of Mark and Tammy and me, and Tammy is 5'3" and Mark is 7'3", and the
oh my God!
Oh, that's
hilarious. But
7'3".
Yeah, he might be 7'4". He's 7'3" or 7'4".
Wow!
So,
I would give anything for a shot, and he's already gone now. He's deceased, but what a great shot it would have been to have Shaquille O'Neal standing next to Billy Barty.
Oh,
that's money in the bank right there.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think there was this thing, and they talk about it in The Last Dance, that that MJ was able to access, and there was this, I forget the exact, and Glenn, you might recall more clearly, but there was this one particular player, and I don't think it was Reggie Miller. It might have been, but Michael Jordan literally made up a story in his mind that this guy was talking smack about him or did something
just to motivate himself,
just to go out in the next game and smash them. He said, he literally, it was something that he had inside where he had this ability to trigger these emotions to take it to the next level. And I mean, that dude could fly. He wasn't human. It was ridiculous. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh my God.
He's not standing on anything. That's him on the ground with Tammy and me. So that's my pal Mark. Can you believe that?
That is unreal.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And, that's one of the other funny things we talked about is that he said, for some reason, when you're this tall, it's like people who don't know you get Tourette's. It's like, holy. When they see him coming.
Oh my God.
It's the craziest thing in the world, because people who would never say that in person will see him and go,
absolutely.
That is unreal.
But an awesome guy. And to your point, Glenn, what he said is, he played at UCLA. He's played in the NBA, and he said John Stockton is the greatest teammate that any player could ever hope for. That he was just a classy guy. He said he remembered running off the court one night, and because some of the players will sign their shoes and give it to kids or give it to fans. And this guy stopped Stockton and said, "Hey, would you sign your shoes? Could I get your?" Yes, it's a fabulous restaurant, Doug. Absolutely. And Stockton said, "Why would any grown man want a pair of my shoes?" He's just so normal. And Mark is great. And it's a fabulous Italian restaurant that they have there.
I'll tell you who would be fun to have photographed him next to also was Vern Troyer.
Oh, yeah. Mini-Me.
Yeah, Mini-Me, who is also deceased now.
Yeah.
But
Hervé Villachez is deceased as well.
Of course. So I want to dovetail off of your John Stockton comment, Scott, which is that you talked about him being such a team player. Well, Ken and I were having a discussion earlier today, and he said something that I thought was quite brilliant, which he does multiple times a day. As much as I'd like to kid him about it and say he only does it once every couple of months,
Is it that often?
He says brilliant things every day. And the thing he said today was, I'm trying to pass a compliment on to you, dude. Will you just receive it? He said that life is a team sport. And I thought that, that's really beautiful. And certainly it's true that if we attempt to live in a disconnected manner, we will soon wilt away. I added that part to what he had said, but it's true that we do need to assess what it is that feeds us, and whether it's people, whether it's a belief system, whether it's our employment, but what is it that feeds us and allows us to hang on, and not only hang on, but to thrive. This is true sustainability. And so then I took off after we hung up and started thinking about this documentary. And I thought, there are some basketball terms which are directly applicable to life that don't need to be altered. For example, in basketball, and I didn't share this with Ken, and so this is the first time for me to share this with Scott and Ken, guys. But there is in basketball, we all know this. Anyone who follows basketball knows of the expression, I know you guys do, called a triple-double, right? If somebody gets a triple-double. Can you guys explain to the audience what that means?
Sure, you bet. Double figures in 3 statistics.
And those 3 statistics are?
They don't have to be, but they can most typically they are points, rebounds, and assists.
That's correct. Scoring, rebounds, and assists. So let's think about this. In life, we score in life, and man, do we ever benefit from being the facilitator of an assist. There are points that are scored via assisting others. So it is not at all exclusive to basketball. And how about this? How well do you rebound in life when the shot you're taking misses, when something goes awry, when something goes a way you didn't expect it would, or when someone dismisses you from their life, or a big deal falls through? And the list is endless about all that can go not according to your precious plan. Then the question is, how quickly and how efficiently, not just quickly and not just efficiently, but the merging of those two, how quickly and efficiently do you rebound from whatever incident occurred? Can you treat major events in your life like windshield wipers treat rain? I've noticed they don't dwell upon it. They don't. Rain blocks the windshield, and 1 second, if not less than a second later, it is wiped clean, which means that I want to learn how, when needed, to respond like the windshield wipers. When I need a speed rebound to get over something quickly, because I've got to be present in this next moment. And that doesn't mean we forget about whatever incident occurred and we can address it later, but the ability to rebound quickly. One of the moments in the show, and I wish we could show something from that, Ken, in a screen share. Everybody has Netflix, and after all, we are promoting their network.
I have it queued up. And did you know that was ESPN and Netflix partnered on that?
Yes, I did know that they partnered for that. But let's take, for example, there's a moment, I don't remember what episode it was in. It was one of the later episodes, probably 8, 9, or 10. Scott, where he played, and the night before he had gotten something weird happened, that someone on the team ordered a pizza, and Michael ate it, and he got food poisoning. And at 3:00 in the morning, he is calling the team doctor. He is very sick. He's puking his brains out. And of course, he was sick all day. And anyone who's had food poisoning knows how much it can knock you on your butt.
Oh, yeah.
And at game time, he just was not there. And he still took the court. He was sweating profusely, had no business being on the court, but he still had that switch in him. And what he needed to do, and he successfully did, is he achieved a mental override and said, despite the fact that I have food poisoning, we have a game to play and we have a game to win. And he turned the Jets up, and what looked like a certain loss turned in the third quarter, and he brought the game on that he knows how to play, and they wound up winning the game. And I think they only won it by 1.
Hey,
he hit the game-winning shot. Yeah, that was in Utah. That was the series-ending game-winning shot in Utah.
Let me get this ready here real quick, gentlemen, and we'll go back to this for a second. I just need to get it prepped. So I think that, and it's the same. And I don't want to make this all about Michael Jordan. He was definitely.
It's not. It's about consciousness.
Right. But, if you recall, Scottie Pippins went through the same thing where he injured his back and he
played through.
He played through, and I'm talking, he was in excruciating. I mean, can you imagine running up and down a basketball court with your nerve pinched against your spine or whatever was going on with him, and somehow he freaking pulled it off? It's just unbelievable.
So what is the clip? Do you want to set up the clip?
Yeah, it's just it's the trailer to
preview trailer that ESPN.
It's the 3-minute one. So
yeah, let's do it.
Let's
do it. We'll get the juices boiling in all of our audience and get everybody all jacked up.
Now, I haven't seen this clip, so there could be language. So if you have little kids nearby, you may want to plug their ears. I don't know. I know there's language throughout the series.
Yeah.
But so here we go. I'm going to show this. Here we go.
That's waterproof color right there. That's waterproof.
Our biggest challenge is us.
I am cursed with this mentality of competitiveness.
Competition was an addiction. Every day was a battle.
Dennis, get up here.
Boom. You don't hear it, see Dennis for 48 hours.
No matter what we did, it seemed like it was a story.
Scotty was being selfish.
When the trust is broken, it's sort of shocking.
I never hated Scotty.
6 championships in 8 years.
We were the greatest team ever.
What time is it?
I'm gonna ridicule you until you get on the same level with me.
That man getting a free run at me.
It was his team. My mentality was to go out and win at any cost.
We want to keep this excellence going.
Unbelievable. Done it again.
Once you reach the top, where do we go from here?
At some point, the team is not going to meet the expectations.
I like the way you think.
What time is it? Game done.
Not a good day for Michael Jordan.
Pippen is now demanding a trade.
The expectations are certainly high.
Come on, think positive, man. Yo.
In the post-game locker room, the word I heard most was
Have
adversity.
you learned to deal with that yet?
Take it easy, guys.
The only question, how long can it last?
The most famous man on the planet is here.
Okay, everybody.
There we go.
Unbelievable. That wasn't that. I don't. Whoa. I don't think that really does. I don't think that trailer does it justice.
Yeah, that's well. It's tough to capture that kind of greatness in a trailer.
Yeah, so I think that again, they show Dennis Rodman, who what I remember, hopefully he's not watching, but I just couldn't stand Dennis Rodman. From what I remembered about the little bit of basketball I caught, I was like, this guy just doesn't care about anybody but himself. Like it stopped. There's a point where it's like, well, when Dennis shows up, we're gonna get this game going.
Hold on, this just in. Apparently, Dennis Rodman would like to speak with you, Ken. It says immediately.
After
you're going to visit his friends in North Korea after that comment.
After watching that show, though, I can say I think I understand him a little better, right? Because the show's not just about Michael Jordan, it's about the whole team. And Michael Jordan, how he pushed and pushed and pushed the team. I mean, to the point of, a lot of anger and resentment in some cases. But he pushed
other people wanted to feel like their contribution was was also being valued.
Yeah.
And Scottie Pippen's big issue was that he was not even in the top 100 salaries in the NBA. And yet his ranking was way, way up at the top, and the salary was disproportionate. But he was asked to sign a 7-year contract, and he was a provider big time for his family. And although it was for a tremendous amount of money, his market value was way beyond that. And so he settled. And at the time, it probably seemed like a good idea. But as you continue to watch salaries soaring all around you, and you're not feeling that the skill set is commensurate with those elevated salaries, then after a while, you're probably really looking around and feeling someone undervalued. And this is one of the downsides of a long-term contract, because if you're not going to continue, if you don't see yourself continuing to feel that way in the future, you got to be very careful, because once you ink the deal, you kind of have to play from that place that you have inked the deal, But Scott, I want your review once you see it, since you are, among other things, a movie reviewer. I would love to hear your opinion on this.
I've seen a little bit of it, but I haven't seen the entire thing. But it's kind of interesting. I love watching about Jordan. I love watching that, but I wouldn't want to have been a player on that Bulls team.
Teammate.
Oh, man.
I would not want to have been a teammate.
I get it, but can you go into the whys specifically, and then can we move from that into Leanne's question? She says, "Is that innate or learned?" And Leanne will get to that. I want to hear from Scott. I agree, Scott, and I share that, but why is that true for you?
Well, I think one of the things that any good leader has to do is to make certain that everyone on the team is engaged. One of the things I do admire about Jordan is he certainly didn't push anybody on the team to do something that he wasn't willing to do himself. But when one person on the team takes all the air out of the room, when one person on the team absorbs all of the light, it's really, really hard to sustain your enthusiasm for what you're doing. I think that they were very fortunate with Scottie Pippen, because Scottie Pippen is one of those guys, it's like, the bands have the same situation. If the lead singer gets all the attention, the great guitar player gets a little jealous, which is why bands break up. And you've got to make certain that you keep everyone involved as a leader. And if there is a weakness to Michael Jordan, I think it's, there is a point in time that you stop competing. I mean, people hate a sore loser, but the only thing they hate worse is a sore winner.
Yeah.
And if you watch Jordan's induction speech into the Basketball Hall of Fame, it's embarrassing because he was still calling people out and still pushing people the night he's inducted into the Hall of Fame. And
in other words, you're saying just be a gracious inductee and shush with all the rest.
Yeah, you don't have to put it. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're the greatest of all time by most people's estimation. Be nice. You know, there's a point you stop rubbing people's face in it. And I think, and it's to what Mike is saying. There is a point that winning and being competitive, when he says, I'll win at any cost, I got a problem with that.
I certainly don't want to win at any cost in my life.
Well, I don't, but did he, do you, so from the perspective of win at any cost and I'll sacrifice my teammates to do that. Yeah, that's wrong. But when I hear him say, I will win at any cost, he put himself, his own physical being through the ringer. And my thing is this, man, I'm always like, we live in a free world somewhat. And like we all are given the same 24 hours in a day. And it, like Jordan had a full size basketball court built in each one of his homes and constantly worked out nonstop. And if he screwed up, because Tim Grover was his coach, if he lost a game or they lost a game, Jordan was like, I'll see you tomorrow morning at the gym. Let's go. We got to work this out. We got to figure out what we did wrong and improve it. So I think my take on that was, and I'm not trying to disagree, but my take was he was willing to do anything to himself at minimum to make sure that he won.
And sacrifice family time and sacrifice relationships with the people on the team and the front office. And I mean, you can't argue with his results. Yet I think when you look at other, most people, the argument is, and I don't mean this to turn just into a sports argument, but the argument is, is LeBron James, who is the greatest of the two. And it tends to be an age-related discussion. Yeah. Folks our age say Jordan, younger folks say LeBron simply because they saw them play in their prime.
Yeah, right.
But I think you've got to give a lot of credit to LeBron because by all accounts, he's done a fabulous job being a dad and he's done a fabulous job with his family. And you think about that he got rich at 18. And I'm not LeBron's the other guy that broke the Pacers' heart. I've lost to both of them. But the point being that, it's a great thing to consider. And I don't know that there is a right or wrong, but at any cost, is that, I early in my career, I got connected with a guy named Dr. Wayne Oates, and Dr. Oates taught at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville. And older gentleman, and we went out to dinner with our mutual friend, and he is the guy that created the term workaholic. That's his place in history, is that he coined the term workaholic. And he said, but what's often overlooked is their output is less. They're addicted to work, but they don't necessarily generate results. Now, Jordan generated results. Yeah. My fear sometimes, and I say this very respectfully to Michael Jordan, my fear sometimes is people see this and they think, oh, if I just get obsessed, then I will be successful. And that's not necessarily true because, number one, what you leave behind in terms of family and relationships and all of that, I don't think is worth it. The other
much
thing,
of which is irretrievable.
It's irretrievable. Exactly right, Glenn. And the other aspect of that too is, we've had this discussion before, but I mean, let's also remember that Jordan was gifted by God with this incredible body and physical. He had, yes, what he did with it was phenomenal. But if Michael Jordan would have been 5'9", wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, it's a combination of taking your gifts and doing everything you can with them. But I just think that the will to win at all costs is something that we need to reconsider.
Yeah.
This is why one of the mottos that I go by is that I am really devoted to winning at the expense of others, not at the expense.
Ooh, I love that.
And I really, that is where I draw the line, is what I'm being compensated for, is it expanding my audience? If it is, then that's the correct work for my soul. But it must be expansive and not only expensive. And the same is true in just making good decisions, because when we're winning, we also have to ask the question is, what is all this winning costing me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it turns out there's a cost on winning. Everyone might think that winning is just every aspect of it is wonderful. And I would say that most aspects of it are wonderful. And other aspects, it's a real tightrope walk, and it can be very tedious. And we have to be really, really careful at how we manage and purpose our time and our place where we spend our time and energy, because obviously whatever we spend our time and energy on is what's going to expand. And so we want to make sure that our expansion of this thing over here is not drinking up all the water out of our lives, so that our other crops, which are very valuable to us, those crops ultimately die. And it's because it was sucking all the water over to that which we had prioritized.
Glenn, you've worked with the biggest stars in the world. The perception of the average person is that those people have a charmed life. You've seen them up close and personal.
Yes.
Would you consider their lives to be without problem and charmed?
No, I wouldn't. And it's a very easy question to answer. Yeah. Their lives are simply this. Their lives are different. I would say that in the fulfillment department, they may have an edge, and probably do have an edge, because they're doing what they love. But I have not seen that the joy quotient across the board is remarkably higher. And in areas where they do win, there is another leak. And it reminds me of an old episode of the Three Stooges, where the Stooges go into the plumbing business and they don't know squat about plumbing. And they start with a leak in the bathtub and they fix that one. But here's the problem. They fix it on one end and send it upstream to a pipe that has two heads on the other side. So now they have two leaks instead of one. And then they see this play, sort of stair-stepping it into the minds of the audience, and then they leave. And Curly is up in the bathtub. And they leave for a few minutes and show Larry and Moe. And when they come back to Curly, he has built a spider web of pipe problems with all these leaks. And I think the teaching here, and I was able to excavate this and really just pull it from these early episodes, that it was more than just a laugh for me, way more than a laugh. It was a life teaching that basically don't fix a problem with an even bigger problem.
Right.
So don't fix a single leak with something that now leaks twice.
Yeah.
And I think that has stayed with me my whole life, is right before I say yes, I run it through the firewall checkpoint and say, what is this victory costing me? What is this yes costing me? And is this yes to stopping this one leak costing me two more leaks downstream?
Right. Yeah.
So it's really powerful.
I think, part of, because I know some super, super wealthy, successful, and those are not one and the same, by the way, but I know some very, very wealthy people, very, very successful people. And one of the things that I loved that Jordan said in this many, many times throughout this series, and you'll see this, Glenn, I'm sure this will be a reminder for you.
Sure.
Is he was a master, maybe the master, at being in the present moment, being present. And just looking at, I never hung out with him and his wife and his kids. And so I never saw what kind of a father he was. I'm sure there's plenty of rumors out on the web. There's always good and bad, but the way that the guy was able to pull off being in the moment, present, And then that's what and the people that were narrating the film said, you know, his greatest gift is his ability to be in the present moment. Like, you know, they're showing him with the headphones on, he's listening to some jam, and they're like, the dude is in the moment always. And so I would imagine that, you know, I work a lot, but when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids and I'm really, really present with them. So, you know, but you know, if you're going to achieve anything in life, I mean, Glenn, would it be nice for you to just be able to stay home all the time and not have to fly out to Atlanta to do all that filming and be away from your, you know, or you know what I mean? I mean, there's,
I do, but I don't know if you calculated an answer from me on that. But the reality is, first of all, I don't have to fly out to Atlanta. I get to.
Right.
And I really do make that distinction, is that
Right.
I get to fly to Atlanta. And I'll also add another word. I want to fly to Atlanta.
Right.
Now, I love being at home, but I want to make this really clear. And Carolyn knows this, so no disrespect. And she not only knows it, she supports it.
Right.
I want to be at home, but my preference is to not only be at home. I mostly want to be at home. It's certainly not 100%, because you ask any Kentucky Derby horse, their dream is not to sit in a barn and eat hay. That's not their dream. And so I understand about my design that I have to be out galloping in the world.
Yeah.
I want to go to Carolyn Chase's. Can you illuminate Carolyn's comment? She said there are Bible passages to a similar effect. And
well,
I'd be curious.
We're going to talk about somebody else's comment, Leanne.
Yes. So guys, what do you think about Leanne's comment? Is that innate or learned? And what are you referring to specifically, Leanne? Are we talking about the bar, the elevated bar of winning and having an elevated bar? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. When she wrote that was when we were talking about being so driven, being so competitive. And
okay. So guys, what do you think? Innate or learned?
Scott, go ahead.
I knew you were going to say.
Or I'll go first. I don't care.
You know, yes. Here's what I mean. And I'm stealing a line from my good friend Jim Cathcart that wrote a book called The Acorn Principle. And the Acorn Principle basically is that some people say that it is nature, you know, it's innate. Some people say it is nurture, which means that it's learned. And Jim's line is, we become the most of what we can be when we nurture our nature. When we take whatever is in us that is unique and special and nurture those gifts. So I think Jordan probably was born to be, there's whatever the gene is that it makes you a little more competitive than others. I think Jordan probably had that, but that was nurtured through folks like Dean Smith, his coach in college, and Phil Jackson and others, you know, that we don't know, but that nurtured that competitive spirit. So that, and I think a lot of it became, that's why Jordan, I mean, who wouldn't be devastated if they lost their father, particularly the way that Michael lost his father? But if there had to be something in that family that when he got cut from his high school team, that he didn't give up, that he was still thinking he could be the best basketball player in the world. Because I mean, that is so unique and so special to have been cut and still believe. Because for a lot of us, if we got cut from our high school team,
and he cried, and he talked to his mom, and his mom said, "You get back in there and you train hard, and you go back and you make that team."
And that's nurturing the nature that we were talking about.
You know, I think that it's to answer my perspective, to answer her question, is she said, is that innate or learned? So are you born with it, or is it a learned thing? I think personally, it's 100% learned. I don't, and Zig Ziglar used to say that great salespeople are not born, they are made. Nobody is made or born a great salesperson. Michael Jordan got his ass kicked by Detroit over and over and over. And he talked about how physical Detroit was, and just they were stomping them.
Is it?
And they were stomping them. And you know what he did? He didn't say, "Oh, I guess I'm never going to be." He decided, I got to do something about this. They're bigger than me and they're pushing me around. And he started working out that summer. He just started working out nonstop, pushing weights, bulking up, getting bigger so he wouldn't get pushed around. Same thing with Indiana. They were a big physical team as well. And he talked about New York and you know, he had to work on. So that's something that I think we can't. I think that too many people write it off to fate. Now, I'm not saying I could go out at 52 years old and start working out and become the great, better than Jordan.
Although I would love to see you try. Personally, I'd get a real kick out of that.
Yeah, no, you will not see me try it. But I think that we set these limitations, and I don't know that he ever. Did it say in there, did they talk about him ever saying, "I'm going to be the greatest basketball player of all time"? Because I don't think he ever did.
No, I don't know that he ever said that publicly.
Right. But I mean, he did have a nasty demeanor when it came to winning.
By all accounts, he gets really PO'd if somebody says to him, "You were LeBron." I mean, to even consider that anybody could be as good as he was makes him go off the rails. I've read.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that who's the dude from the Utah Jazz? Glenn, you mentioned him earlier.
John Stockton or Karl Malone?
Karl Malone. Malone won MVP one year, and it pissed him off so bad that he said, "I'm the next year when we face Utah." They're like he had it mapped out in his head. He was just angry. He's like, "I'm not saying Malone didn't deserve it, because he did, but he said, it just was fuel for me. Like I'm now it's on, you know." And that's that switch I talked about. I did a post about this. Like he had this switch. Somehow he was able to access some kind of a switch that he's like, it ain't happening like this again. It will not happen this way. And he was able to just manifest his destiny. It was so I think that it's something that we learn.
So this is my second takeaway tonight already. And, you know, we're almost at that magical hour, Scott. We're not there yet, but we're very close.
Wait on your response to this before.
And it seems that, I'm already ahead of the game because I have two takeaways, one from each of you. I just pick up the takeaway to not mention ever to Michael Jordan that anyone even deserves to breathe the same air as him in terms of discussing their prowess and could it be on the same level. So I now know that. And it also earlier, about 20 minutes ago, I wrote to myself, do not ever talk smack about Scott's Pacers. So now I know.
See, it's like family. I can talk bad about them, but nobody else can, you know.
Right.
So I want to add a takeaway for you guys because it was a huge takeaway for me this week. We had Kurt Fuller, and if you would put him on the screen, Ken, Kurt Fuller, just to show everybody who Kurt is, you'll certainly know him. He's a that guy character actor, and Kurt said something that I really feel deserves to be passed around. And it was in reference to this whole idea of the best you, bring the best you to every circumstance. Here's what he told my actors this week. He was our in-studio guest. He said, that's all well and good, and it's important, but it's not the most important. And of course, you could hear a mouse peeing on cotton at that point. Everybody leaned in. Yeah. And what he said was this, there's Kurt. So most of you remember him, at least originally, from the Wayne's World movies, Wayne's World 2. And then he springboarded into greatness. He was in Ghostbusters. Ivan Reitman directed that film. He's been in so many things. People know him as a series regular on the series Psych. Kurt and I worked together in 2 movies. We did a Western with John Cusack called The Jack Bull for HBO. Beautiful film. And then we also did The West Wing. So it was great to get to know him. Anyway, here's what he said. He said, it's great to bring the best you, but it's most important to bring the truest you. And he really attributed that to how well he has fared as an actor, because in other words, he wasn't going in any room for his auditions to be anyone other than himself. And he was really devoted to the expression of his own uniqueness, knowing that not unlike a snowflake, there's never been another Kurt Fuller, there isn't, and there never will be again. So why am I wearing somebody else's jersey? And Ken, you and I had that discussion earlier today. Why am I wearing a jersey that I would want to be somebody else, when really we're going to taste the sweetest juices of life if we start wearing our own jersey with our own name on it and step into the fullness of our intended design. I thought it was brilliant. So again, his teaching was, don't worry as much about being the best you, but rather bring the truest you to all circumstances. I thought it was beautiful.
That's awesome.
Really good.
And it's about that time, Scott.
It's 5:56 here on the West Coast, 8:56 back east, 7:56. I feel like back in radio, but I don't know the temperature, time and temp.
Tonight's forecast, dark, with widely scattered light early in the morning.
Chance of dark, 100%. Anyway.
What do we do every week at this hour, Scott?
I know, I'm sorry. It just hit me, that thing about and ICBM missiles are heading for us at this moment. We won't be here at 11.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Anyway, it's that time every week that we share with you. Ooh, that's just wrong. So
can I go first?
Tonight.
Yeah. Oh my God. You just volunteered to go first, Ken?
I did.
Holy geez. We may be very well near the end of time as we know it.
And
wow.
As since I have the controls
Yes.
of the technology here,
I guess you can go first anytime you want.
I'm going to That's true. So no, I have a visual I'm going to put up on the screen.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I have an Amazon Alexa device sitting on my desk, and it has the screen, and it tells me all this cool stuff, like how to make an ice cream shell is up on the screen right now. Anyway, so I happen to be looking for something. I look over there, and this image is up on my screen. This was earlier today. And I was like, oh my God, I have my, ooh, that's just wrong for tonight. So here, I'm putting this up on the screen because this is really wrong, in my opinion. It really freaked me out, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to sleep tonight now. So here we go. I'm like, what in the hell are they doing? Like, what?
I hate to tell you, I'm one of those 20%.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You are not.
Yeah. When Tammy and I first got married, she was like, what? What do you want? What are you staring at me? I was sound asleep.
Are you really
they're like halfway closed, but you can see because my used to creep my mom out when I'd done it all my whole life. Used to creep my mom out because, she'd walk in and think I was awake, and she'd move around in the room and my eyes wouldn't follow her or anything. And just, yeah. So.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding?
Do you know that 5% of all talk show hosts are capable of doing the talk show using the whites of their eyes only? Right? They're like 5%.
Karen Toddy's 20.
There you go, Karen. Yes.
Wow. That is unbelievable. I've never heard of that.
I'm not certain, but I think Karen would probably agree that it is a sign of great intellect. I'm not sure, but
also humility.
Yes, and humility. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. Look, she said, drove my hubby crazy until he figured it out. Oh my gosh.
Hello, Susan Laurel Rose. I'm glad to see you in the house tonight. Did we ever hear from Carolyn? Did we ever hear what verse she was mentioning, or if she had a particular one? Because we need you to highlight some things, Keno.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me find that. That was way back.
Yeah, it's back up a ways because I'd be curious. There it is.
834.
So what are those verses? I'd be curious because I'm always interested in those kinds of passages. And especially since I do speak at churches a lot, it's interesting that many times when you speak at a church, you can make a very valid point and one that is well received, but the substantiation must occur biblically for them to hear it. And I learned this the hard way. I was speaking at a huge church, one of these 10,000 member churches in Detroit. This goes back a little over 10 years ago. And I considered it to be one of my favorite outings ever. And this guy who was responsible for my security, by the way, I was surrounded by an actual Secret Service team. And the minister said, I want to explain something to you. I'd like to apologize for the fact that we had these men who carry guns surrounding you. Scott, you'll appreciate it. He goes, just so you know, they're only there because you needed them.
Oh, jeez.
And here's what he said. He said that right before I went out to speak. They were referred to as ministers of defense. Most of them were former Detroit PD. And he just said, anyway, we've got about 50 of them scattered around and they're all ready to draw at any time, but you go out there and you inspire. And I'm like, what the?
Oh my!
What did you just tell me? So anyway, we finished, and the guy who was my primary caretaker that weekend, as we were driving to the airport, he was talking about the talk, and I said, "Did you enjoy it?" And he goes, "I did," and I could hear the trepidation. Yeah. You know, I did. Well, the tone gives it away. Yeah. He didn't say, I did. Yeah. Right? It wasn't, I did. It was, I did. And man, the tonal implied but. So you know a but is coming. And I said, and your but is what? And he said, well, you only gave us 6 Bible verses and we require 7. What?
Oh my gosh.
He actually said, and we require 7. 7's our minimum on our, and he wasn't joking. Yeah, and I thought that is one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. And he's like, yeah, who's joking?
Wow.
And I realized he was not joking. He said, we usually like more in the neighborhood of 10 quotes. And so I'm always looking for great quotes for anyone that needs what I'm saying to be backed by a verse.
Wow.
Yeah. I only gave him 6 that day. I failed miserably.
Wow. Wow.
That's just wrong.
Yeah, there's my that's just wrong.
Hey, and I don't want Scott. My that's just wrong was not meant to offend anyone that has this thing. It's look at the graphic. That's what's just wrong.
Graphic is wrong. That is wrong.
I mean, I'm like this thing. I have one of these. My daughter sees it. I'm like, that would freak a kid out.
Well, what it implies, if you look at that ad, go back to it one more time, Ken. What it implies is that everyone on the planet is constantly high. Is there anyone's eyes that don't look that way? Oh my God.
Scott,
so this is our little Sunday night radio show, guys, but we happen to photograph ourselves while we do it.
While we're doing it. You know, you heathen. I love that. Glenn, you heathen.
I'm a heathen because I only did 6. That's funny.
Yeah.
So what was yours?
Mine is, you know, I don't have a funny one. Mine is serious. It's what we were talking about before the show went on. You know, Tammy and I took a COVID test Tuesday. It'll be 2 weeks ago. Because we have different insurance providers. Mine was sent to one lab. Hers is sent to another. And she still has not received her results. And it just shows, I mean, regardless of what you think about anything else regarding this, how in the world do we solve this problem if it takes you that long to get your test back?
Yeah, that most assuredly is just wrong.
That's
in fact, that's really wrong. That's a whole new level of wrong.
I mean,
wow.
I don't know how. And again, I'm not trying to get into the discussion on this because I know we have very different viewpoints on it. But it just blows me away that we're trying to solve a problem, but yet we can't even test the people that have been. I mean, both Tammy and I have tested positive twice, or I've tested twice. We don't have the results of her second test yet, and it's just crazy that we just can't get an answer. How do you? And she's feeling much better. I mean, she's not 100%, but she's much, much better than what she was. And, she would feel good enough to go out to dinner or to whatever, but we would never do that.
Right.
With our test having been done positive. I don't know. As I was saying, I saw where Hawaii says they're going to open up. You just have to show that you've got a negative result within 3 days of coming to Hawaii. Well, heck, if you can't get your results for 2 weeks, how in the world do you make plans to go? How do you? It's just crazy.
That's crazy.
It shows how, and again, regardless of what you think about anything else, it just shows how woefully unprepared the system was to handle a pandemic of any type.
Right, and also this is a yes and also the absence of a same pageness to all things, as in whether it's a unified response or even medically. There should be a basic timeline that's more reliable than that so that we don't have that variance that is so disproportionate.
Yeah, so true.
Because so many different things can occur during that window.
Well, and my sister and I have talked, and she would say, oh, we're in stage 3 here in Indiana, and oh, we're in stage 2 here in Nevada. Well, what we came to realize was the stages were defined differently based on the state. There was no uniform, this is what this stage means across the country. And it can vary from state to state. So we don't even, not even using the same terminology.
I wasn't even aware of that. I knew that the handlings were different, but I didn't understand that even the literature was different.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
So regardless of where you are on this politically, we've got to get our act together because goodness only knows this has been a mess.
It's been a mess.
So if I may
agree on that, what we can.
We agree. Yeah.
May I address the innate versus learned?
Sure.
Yes.
Question.
Your turn.
Which is that I happen to believe that when you look at babies in a maternity ward, what is so endearing about them is the presence, as we observe them, of pure potentiality, unimpeded, that nobody has ever looked at a child in a maternity ward and said, look at that little jerk. What a jerk. Nobody says that because they haven't earned that title. They are there as pure potentiality and pure love. And I really believe that barring any kind of physical abnormality that can certainly make life very difficult and very challenging for some, but that is a very, very small percentage. With everybody else, all things being equal, I think one of the greatest wrongs we can commit is to have our unexpressed gift, and unexpressed because it went unexplored, placed into a casket with us. I think it's one of the biggest wrongs we can commit as a human being is to have a massive unexplored gift that gets buried with us, that we never bothered to open that up and explore it. And so in that sense, I would say that it's all innate with a big however.
Yeah.
And the big however is if you don't know that it's innate, then you'll never do anything to cultivate. You'll never do anything with that. So it has to start with the preconceived belief that you've got an existing gift to work with. And I wouldn't even say singularly gift. I would say gifts, plural, that you can work with any one of them to send your life in any direction you choose. but it sure helps if someone is there to assist you. There's that word again in that triple double, to assist you in the cultivation of that gift. If you have a parent who, instead of saying to you, and we've talked about this in recent weeks, instead of saying to you, if you could be anything you want, that instead that parent languages it as, since you can be anything you want, then what's it going to be? What a big difference between since you can be and if you could. One lives in fantasy and the other is right here in reality, grounding those kids in the understanding that, hey, baby, it's up to you. It's entirely up to you as to whether or not you want to have a synchronistic interaction with your gifts in this lifetime. Are you dancing? I think it comes down to this, my dear buds. It comes down to, are you dancing with your gift? Mm-hmm. Are you dancing with it? Because if you are, then you can build upon what was issued to you innately. And the rest from that point on is learning it and cultivating what its capabilities are.
Love that.
Love it.
But again, you still have to learn how to use your gift and improve on it. Like Scott, you talked about, I mean, you've got this amazing magical voice,
which he worked at,
which you talked about that when you were a teenager, right? When you started really, I think I remember you saying something about in your bedroom in front of the mirror or something.
Well, I worked in radio, but I would go home after the shift was over, and every night I would stand in my room. And back then it was called a book quarter. It was about the size of a book, but it was a tiny little reel-to-reel tape recorder back then. Boy, that dates me. And every night I would, just like some kids would practice the piano or practice basketball, I would stand in my room and I would give a prepared speech. And then the second thing I would do is I would pick out something in the room and I would force myself to give a 5-minute speech about that or relating that to something. So it might be a coat hanger, it might be a bed sheet, but I would just try to pick something at random in the room. And then because I realized that to be successful, I thought at that time in broadcasting, not speaking, but you not only had to be able to be great at prepared speaking, but you also had to prepare yourself to think on your feet. And it was kind of interesting. This was one of the great things that ever happened to me. To get elected to the office that I was seeking in FFA, state president, they would pull you in and they have a nominating committee and they would try to do things to throw you off to see how you'd react. And I walked in and they said, we're going to put something in your hand. As soon as we put it in your hand, you have to give a 5-minute speech about it.
Oh, wow.
And I opened my hand and they put a keychain in my hand, a ring, like a ring with keys on it in my hand. 5 minutes, go. And
do you remember the speech?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's hear it.
Well, because a month earlier, that was what I had practiced on in my room. It was just total. It was total. I started to say it's coincidence, but it wasn't. It was the universe. It was that. And so what I said was, most people would think the leader was the biggest key, but in fact, the leader is the ring that takes these diverse keys that do different things, open different opportunities, and have different sizes, and is able to unite them into a meaningful and useful whole. So my goal as the leader of this organization is not to be the biggest key. It's to be the ring that can take all of the skills and all of the talents of the members of the state officer team and unite them together in a meaningful whole. And
that's the job of a CEO, Scott.
Yeah, it's true. It is leadership.
Was that as a teenager?
That's 18. Yeah.
Dude, what? 18-year-olds don't think like that.
Well, but if you spend from 14 to 18 studying that,
right,
then that's the difference. It is what you study, and it is what you. Glenn, you reminded me a lot of the line. I was gonna say this earlier, but when we were talking about no one accomplishes this alone, there was an old time. Really, one of the first professional speakers was a guy named Dr. Kenneth McFarland, and McFarland it was a kind of a brash, cocky, out there kind of guy. And he, one of the lines in his speeches was, it's like when someone comes up to me and says they're a self-made man. I say to them, I bet you wish you had subcontractors.
I remember in improv training, we were handed things and we were told to tell a story about them. No warning, just here's the item, go. And I was handed something, and here is what I remember saying, and this was at age 16. I said this. I said, Sint mihi de acarontis propete, valiet numen triplex Ihove igneo reoctasi spiritus salvete orientis princeps Beelzebub inferni ardentis monarcha et demagogon propitiamus vorsuta pariet, et surgot Mephistopheles, quid tu moraris per Ihovam gehenam et consecratum, a com nunc spargo signumque crucis code nunc fosio et pavota nostra ipse nunc surgot nobis dicitus. And I looked and I said, I'm sorry, you didn't specify in English. That's what I said. I had done my whole share in Latin, and everybody just stood there with their mouth wide open. And finally, when they talked, I remember my one good buddy, Larry, he goes, that boy's going to Hollywood. You watch. You watch.
Oh, my God.
That is
so funny. Holy crap.
Hey, what did
it in English?
What's that?
Did they make you redo it?
No, I never did translate in English. Hey, what did Robert gave us finally one of his verbose shares here. What does it say?
Oh, we just covered up Scott.
Let's have Scott then at least read it. Let's at least have Scott read it then.
To believe I could do anything worthwhile, belittling myself is a part of my programming. Constantly meant compliments did result in physical pain. If the person was consistent, the pain would be shared. That's why if anyone offered me a chance to go back and do it over, I would shoot them. Not that I have a gun or anything like that.
Oh, Robert, you're the best.
Hey, Chad Caneller put up a poem.
All right, your turn to read, Keno.
I can't do it with Scott's, but I'll give it.
Why don't you quit deciding that that's true? And I'm going to call you out right now. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you. Okay, here's the challenge. I want you to read this with a voice that has never come out of your mouth before.
No.
Don't think about it. Just go. Try it.
I'm not going to do that, Glenn. So, poem of the day. There was a very cautious man who never laughed or cried. He never risked, he never lost, he never won nor tried. And when one day he passed away, his insurance was denied. For since he never really lived, they claimed he never died.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Dude, everybody,
that's golden. What is that from, Chad?
I am doing a screenshot of that.
Yeah, please do
John
that.
Maxwell there too, Chad. I love that.
What was that?
His picture there is with John Maxwell, who is just one of the.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's an incredible poem. Good Lord.
Chad is going to get tagged on Facebook later. That's pretty good.
Offer your quote about Nor Pen. Ken,
Yeah.
I know that one, but share that with us.
No sadder words from tongue nor pen, but these 4 words, what might have been.
Mm-hmm. All saying the same thing. Pamela says she'd like to accept that challenge. So here's one of the things that we teach in my acting training is I let people know that you are surprisingly at choice at all times. So for example, even in this moment, Scott is he's still choosing his voice. He's choosing it. He could do it differently, just as I did that section in Latin just now. I could. I also, if I wanted, could I could do the show with this kind of timidness and embarrassment and appear to be a mess every week. And I may start doing that anytime we want to start losing viewers. I'll do it.
We could call this the Ken and Scott show.
Immediately. It'll be, thanks for stopping by, Glenn. Well, that was a word from our friend Timid Glenn. And Timid Glenn, I don't know, but he had to go early tonight, so he's gone.
This internet connection, I don't know what it is.
So the point is, you always, here's the thing about, I think, that defines a champion The first thing you got to give up is thinking, we're talking on the subject of winning. You've got to stop thinking that winning is for other people.
Yeah.
You've got to stop thinking that great lives are for other people. You've got to stop thinking having your dreams come true is for other people. And the moment you can wear that hat of not only the three words, why not me, but even the tonality. Listen to the tonality. So a victim says those three words and it becomes, why not me? Why not me? So it's a whining tonality. And what a champion says is, why not me? With a big smile on their face, it's the exact same three words. So we work, gentlemen, on shifting the tonality of the human being so that their tonal choices are ones that really facilitate success, because whining does not groom success. It doesn't. So it's interesting that in that example, you don't even have to change the friggin' wording. You can use the exact same words, but expressed with a tonal shift, become about winning instead of about losing. Isn't that fascinating that it really does show up in just the tone alone?
Yes, and you could take why not me and just where you put the emphasis, why not me?
Mm-hmm.
Why not me? Why not me? Which word you choose in just that short 3-word phrase, do you put the emphasis on the right syllable?
Syllable, right.
Is the key. But it's the old line too. Even the word impossible can be split to I'm possible.
Right.
And so our perspective becomes, it's like the governor on a car that determines how fast the car will go. Our perspective becomes our governor of success, and it determines how we perceive is how we will proceed.
Most assuredly. And the verbiage we use, all of that, it's so true. Here's one that leaped off of a page. I was reading a book, it's probably 20 years ago, and there was a chapter called Healthy Self. And I looked at it for 1 second, and what I saw was heal thyself.
Wow.
And I thought, well, there it is. There's how you have a healthy self, is you devote to the healing of yourself, and that it really is an inside job. And I think there's so many ailments, mental ailments and anguish that people go through that they have the keys to heal themselves from. They have it. But as long as we live in the belief that someone else has our answers and we don't, we're in trouble. We're kind of dead in the water from the get-go if we hold the belief that everybody else has our answers. And then we're forever looking for people to unlock us when we're the ones that have ourselves imprisoned. And we can do something about it. That's the good news. We started this show originally as an alternative to do something other than feeling terrible during this COVID-19 chapter.
Yeah.
Right? That's what set us into motion. Ken and I met first. He and Scott already knew each other. Scott came in. It was an instant connection between the three of us as a triangle, but we were simply devoted to give 90 minutes to people to not have to be inundated with thoughts about the awfulness of the changes that have occurred, because the good news is they're not only awful. There's some really cool things that have been byproducts of this.
Yeah.
And you guys are my two biggest gifts that have shown up in my life during COVID. By far.
Did you have to put during COVID at the end of that? I mean,
oh, I'm sorry. The compliment wasn't enormous enough for you, Ken. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Guys, it's interesting. I just want to say this spontaneously, but of my entire life, and I'm talking about all 61 years. Okay, you know what's just right? Can we say that, Scott? What's just right?
Yeah.
Here's what's just right and not made up. No writer's embellishment. Do you know that a week ago, we went out to a restaurant that's outdoors, over a lake, nobody anywhere near you. And that's my kind of scene right now because of my feelings. I just don't want to get around a huddle of humankind. So we're outdoors. When our waitress comes up, who was an angel, her name was Maris. and her parents named her after Roger Maris. Now, here's what's just right. I've never even heard of anybody going by the name, male or female, by the name Maris as a first name. And when do I meet her? When I'm 61.
Ooh.
Now, that's just right.
That is, when you first said that, I thought she was going to say that she named it after Niles's wife on Frasier. That's the only other person I've ever known, I've ever heard.
Named Maris?
Yeah, his wife on Frasier was named Maris.
No, she was named after Roger Maris. I guess her dad was a big Roger Maris fan. And I thought, that's just wild that I'm meeting the first person in my life named Maris, and I'm 61 when I meet her.
That is so cool.
For those of you who don't know, Roger Maris held the record for home runs in a season for the longest time before being eclipsed. And even that, hey guys, even that with regard to winning, think about it. We thought can't be done, just sort of like the 4-minute mile. And then as soon as it was broken, boom, boom, boom. Same thing happened. All those years, nobody touched it. And here comes Mark McGwire, right? And then we get Sammy Sosa and we get Barry Bonds. And it's like boom, 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 because it was shown that it could be done, which shifts our template of consciousness.
Yeah.
And the minute we assess something as doable, to me, that's the tipping point, don't you think? Mm-hmm. Where things change is basically things go according to our assessed doability. And if we see things as possible, then bam.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if I was still wearing that suit and tie right now, I would be drenched in sweat. Just putting that out there.
I'll never forget the last words my stepfather said to me. He said, "Could you please not step on that?"
I got it.
It's the last thing he ever said.
That is so terrible.
Is that just wrong? No. Hey, listen, he was my buddy. He would right now go like this. He would go, "That's funny. That's funny.
But it's funny. What a buy a watch." You've heard that one day.
What's that?
What to buy a watch? My grandfather called me to his death.
Come here. Let me hear this. What did he say?
I don't know it exactly. I've thought of her for years, but yeah, my grandfather pulled me to his deathbed, and with his trembling hands, he held up and he said, "This pocket watch, it belonged to your great grandfather, who gave it to my father, who gave it to me." Yes, grandfather. You want to buy a watch?
Right when you're sure he's going to give it to you.
Oh my
It reminds me of the old Jewish joke. I've told you this about the elderly Jewish guy who refused to wear a seatbelt. I told you guys this.
No,
he refuses to wear a seatbelt. I mean, he's Don Rickles' age and all this. And so he's with, he's riding around in his car. He doesn't wear a seatbelt, and somebody slams on their brakes. He doesn't see them. He goes flying through the windshield and is laying there bleeding to death on the pavement. When the medical people show up and the paramedics, and they rush up to him, and one of them says, because there's blood all around his head, someone says, "Get him a pillow right now. Just get him a pillow. He's on the street," and all that. So they slip a little comfortable pillow under the back of his head, and they say to him, "Sir, are you comfortable?" And he says, "I make a living."
Oh my God.
Hey, Weldon Whitehurst, I need you to reach out to me on Facebook so I can give you your information about Tuesday night, my dear brother.
Wow.
Or even about Monday in the daytime, because you mentioned wanting to come visit the program. And certainly I want to invite you to do that. So reach out to me if you would on Facebook.
Hey,
give me a personal message.
Nice compliment from Eric. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Eric is one of my extra milers from Salt Lake City, Utah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Did you raise your consciousness tonight? I hope so. That's great. What a nice thing to be able to say.
I absolutely love the way we started the show. And it was Scott's reaction.
If you're here late, you've got to go see the replay, because the opening, they got me. They got me big time.
Well, I think this is proof positive that there is a term called edutainment, and it is something that we really, really push for, so that you can smile while expanding, while learning, while growing, while connecting, and we want to do that. We want to give you a chance to laugh a lot in this show, and at the same time, we address some very tender subjects, and we do so with the utmost respect. What is Carolyn saying?
What?
Yes. See, Carolyn appreciated that. That's funny. I buried the gold in the. Yes.
Oh,
that's for you, Carolyn. Thank you.
Eric,
that's
good. Thank you. So, Ralph Glass is here. What's up, Ralph?
Ralph in the house.
Yeah. Greg Crane up in Canada, eh? It's my buddy up in Canada.
Who else can we say goodnight to before we close out? Who joined us late tonight?
Oh gosh, I think a lot of people.
I know we got a lot of people online.
Whole time though, too. Some of these.
Colleen, so good to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Robert, of course, is always here. Always shares it out, just like Colleen. She shared it out. Thank you to everyone who shared it out. So
you had Colleen saying, illuminated earlier. She said the last thing my dad said. I remember you illuminated to me before he died was, "Don't let that music die in you. We know it exists."
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the pitch tonight. Every one of you have a Michael Jordan or the equivalent in you. Please know that. And it is ultimately up to you to activate it or not.
Amen.
Or not. And it can really go either way. But do your best to not only spend your life in the grandstands. Spend some time out on the court. It's a great place to live. I think that's about our show, isn't it, Scotto?
I think it is about time to take it to the house. So thanks, everybody, for joining us here on Sunday, July 26th. We will see you next week. Our first show in August will be next Sunday night, 8 o'clock.
Ever
done in August. It's our August premiere edition. The Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. See you next week.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.